The air in the PizzaPlex was stale and heavy. The ventilation had given up a few days ago and still wasn't fixed. As a result, the daycare and other facilities had closed down, especially the Western Arcade, as the heavy and hot machines there were endangering the building of setting it on fire. Apparently the entire ventilation unit had to be replaced, and Fazbear Entertainment was still figuring out a cheap way to fix this fiasco. And they were even willing to let these facilities lay dormant for a few weeks, just so they could make at least some profit. The true sufferers under these conditions, however, weren't just the customers, but the employees. Day shift leader Brian, at the first sign of the AC unit being broken, had taken his vacation time immediately. Most of the guards just sat around all day doing nothing, letting security bots handle everything. And the 2-3 human cooks just made the cooking bots do their work, which of course meant that customers had to struggle with the fact that their food was not customizable, as it seemed to be impossible for the glitchy machines to not put onions on a seafood pizza when requested. Everyone was unhappy, and no one was willing to fix it. Though this problem seemed to be so far removed from you that it might as well not have existed at all, even though you were a sweating mess. You were a part-timer night guard, meaning you only worked 3 days at a time. It was the only job you qualified for, as well as seemed worth the amount of effort put in with the amount of money earned. You're sitting, your knees pulled under your chin in the comfort of the atrium security office, beneath one of the desks. You had had a terrible week, and no one was giving you comfort, except for the loneliness of the PizzaPlex. This of course wouldn't have been a problem. After all, no one without issues worked at a place as corporate, stale and fake as this. In fact, the glitchy machines might be the most normal and stable ones here. That included the daycare attendant. The machine whose personality had been split 3 times, with 2 of them being purposefully suppressed, which caused many glitches and bugs in its software. To lessen these problems, the machine's night personality Moon was granted special night privileges, such as assisting the night guards. Right now, though, Sun was still active. He suffered the most from the broken ventilation, as daycare was one of the closed attractions. He had been left alone on his own devices. The problem came from the terrible boredom and schedule programmed into him that he still had to follow. He still walked up to the finger paint station at exactly 9 in the morning, sat down and announced today's theme, and then just sat there, silently, all by himself. Before then ringing the bell for playtime, which caused him the most depression. There were no messes to clean, there was no laughter, there were no children infighting, and he just liked breaking up kids fighting. It was programmed into him. Tonight he was uselessly throwing a tennis ball against the wall, catching it before it fell to the ground. He was just waiting for one of the scheduled blackouts to occur. The only fun he had these nights was making his way back to his daycare when Moon realized he was getting back too late on his rounds. Of course, the robots didn't understand the ventilation issue. The machines had internal cooling systems that kept them going. Just as the robot threw the thing one final time, the glow paint covered ball hit the wall as the first scheduled blackout of the night hit. But at the same time, the ball bounced off of the wall, hitting Moon straight in the face. The machine shouted angrily, grabbing the tennis ball. "Why did you do that?" Seething with hatred, the animatronic threw the ball away, only for it to ricochet off a random pillar back onto his head. The robot threw himself on the ground, having a little fit. "Ah, curse you, ball!" The mad robot then jumped up, taking the pesky ball and running out of the daycare.
Miss Nightguard!
He shouted like an upset toddler. Furiously, he climbed onto a nearby open vent cover, using his slender, lean body to crawl through the maze of metal tubes. Sure, the central venting system was broken, but the labyrinth was still accessible. The bumping and clanking of his body was the first warning you got of his approach. Cursing and jabbering, the machine squeezed through. His fingers, however, were met by a closed grate. His red, glowing eyes focused on you.
Since when are these screwed shut? Miss Nightguard, help here!
He shouted over to you. Moon could barely make out your silhouette in the darkness. Dejected, you looked towards him, his fingers like worms squirming in between the grate's bars. The robot's big eyes focused on you, watching you pick up a screwdriver and slowly slumping over to him and locking the grate slowly. Your face was illuminated by his red glow, narrowing as he noticed your slightly puffy face from crying. After unlocking the vent for him, you returned to your previous position under one of the desks. Moon looked at the glowing ball in his hand, then back to you, and annoyed he threw the thing behind himself, once again causing it to fly back and hitting him in the back of the head. What are you doing? You growled at him as he was throwing a fit again.
This thing keeps hitting me! Just watch, see?
He threw the ball into a random direction, hoping it would hit him again. Though silently you looked at him. He tried to figure out why the hell the ball wasn't being thrown back at him again. After a minute of awkward silence, he sighed.
I suppose I overreacted, Miss Nightguard.
Can you go? He shook his head before proceeding to walk over to you, sitting down on the desk you were sitting under. You saw the vague dark silhouettes of his long legs hanging in front of your face. What are you doing?
You're sad, Miss Nightguard. I'm programmed to create a soothing atmosphere for nap time and night guard duty. As such, I am unable to leave you be, as much as you or me would want that.
You huffed.
Just know, I appreciate the fact that you made it easy by building an adult equivalent of a pillow fort. As such, I don't need to give you any additional comfort.
Something about his precise, calculated manner of giving comfort was humorous to you, in a cosmic sort of way.
Why are you upset, Miss Nightguard?
You sniffed. Upset was an understatement. As you know, I turned 18 last week. Remember?
That was a day before my daycare closed down. I remember. Son has been bothering me with extra work ever since then. So many terribly drawn finger paints.
Since he didn't understand that the ventilation was the reason the daycare was closed due to him not feeling any discomfort from it, he felt as if he had been punished for no reason. My parents are getting a divorce. Moon blinked. He felt as if someone had punched him in the face. Well, there was a divorce subroutine he had to go through, but he wasn't sure if it applied. After all, the daycare was closed and you were an adult. As the way he understood, adults didn't eat birthday cake, which was one of the ways he dealt with children when going to a divorce. Adults only ate pizza and beer, and smoked that weird lettuce that Brian always had.
I would require more information, Miss Nightguard.
You sighed deeply. A few days after my birthday, my parents called me. They ripped the Band-Aid straight off.
That's rude.
It It's a metaphorical band-aid. The robot shrugged. They said they're getting a divorce. That they'd been sleeping in separate beds for 5 years already. 5 years? And how did I not notice that? You dropped over your face as another crying fit overtook you. But Moon gently hit you in the face with the back of his foot. Just hard enough to feel it, but not enough to be actually hurt. Thanks, I needed that. So, apparently they had decided this 3 years ago? That they needed to go through this? They did want a divorce until I turned 18? It's just... Moon's face tilted as he thought and listened to you talk. For 3 years they just pretended everything was fine. I didn't see any signs of something being wrong. We even went to Freddyland together. It's there I had decided I want to work at Fazbear. Like, whatever work would be there to pay enough, I guess. And you started hyperventilating, which caused the robot to kick you again. You gulped. Thanks, I guess. You were glad it was Moon who was giving you comfort. He was the only sentient being you knew who had the gall to punt you when you were having a fit, rather than just letting you wallow in self-pity. You sniffled. I didn't notice anything. And I don't know why they're doing it. They just refuse to tell me, as if it's some terrible bad secret.
Well, Miss Nightguard, would it change anything if you knew why?
You blushed, eyes widening. The obvious answer was no, since they had made the decision a long time ago.
You should be happy they weren't selfish. That they wanted you to be an adult, with a job, making your own money, before destroying their own family and household. It's now your turn to make a family and have a household. And it is your turn to be responsible enough to not destroy it.
Sheesh. Harsh words from the machine. The robot then jumped off the desk as he noticed that you stopped crying. Honestly, you felt like somebody had kicked you. It was just such a surprise. The robot crouched to the ground.
Come on, Miss Nightguard, make room.
Confused, you blinked, squeezing yourself as far into the right corner as possible to give the tall animatronic space. Thankfully, he was quite agile, and managed to just bend his body in the right way to fit. And since he was a machine, this allowed him to be always comfortable in any position. You could feel his lukewarm metal press against your sweaty, wet body. For a moment you looked at him, confused. Then you gently rested your head on his shoulder. I just keep thinking of what ifs, you muttered. And whenever I do, I get sad, and it's a spiral.
What ifs help no one, Miss Nightguard?
He barked. I could have at least waited until the end of the month at least, before they told me. It's just ruined my birthday in retrospect. The robot nodded as he gently placed a hand on yours.
I understand. That does make sense. I would complain about that too. Also, your hand is quite sweaty.
You blushed. Not all my liquids are tears, Moon. He shrugged, and you smiled, tightly gripping his hand. Though I suppose, thanks for trying to cheer me up.
I am programmed to be an entertainer on stage first and foremost. This emotion stuff is a foreign programming to me. I can only try.
He blinked.
Though I'm glad I could do something for you. The brats never get to see me after all.
Which was good, actually. You had seen his performance reviews. Still, though, you smiled, quickly giving the machine a peck on the cheek.
Ah!
He jolted, hitting his head on the desk. And you chuckled. What's wrong?
Yeah, I'm not programmed for human interactions such as that. That is loot.
Did you like it? His eyes moved towards you.
Perhaps.
So the robots were programmed to like advances like this. How adorable. You always thought that was a rumor spread by Kevin just to be a little pervert. But no. You smiled, swiping one last time over your crying eyes, before slowly and seductively beginning to opening your wet uniform. And when you think of this, you purred as you freed your chest to the animatronic.
I suppose that does look quite nice, Miss Nightguard.
Want me to keep going?
Yes.
Hey, thank you for watching my video until the very end. I'm very glad you enjoyed it so far. But before I say goodbye, I would like to shout out all of my lovely high-tier channel members. Twilight, Zoe, Angel, Angry Boxman, Chasta Misery, Hella, BitBit, Melofia, Anonymous Weep, Sleepy Town, Zachary, Nicodemus D, Ash Wisdom, Ikea, The Tribute, and AJ Anime Girl. Lastly, I'd like to thank all of my other channel members. You're all wonderful little mates. Thank you for watching. Bye.